Joseph Patterson.
My name is Mrs. Grant.
I'm the president of the UIC, which is Jamaica's official third political party in Jamaica. So you know that Jamaica have two main parties, right?
Yeah.
So this one is the newest one on the block.
Yeah.
We're committed to fixing the problem that they have not fixed in the last 7 years.
Me a girl did it great, and how far me a coming from, and me no reach it. Me no upset, cause how far me a come from and me no reach it. Me happy when me dem, me nah worry, me nah fret. I saw the thing go, I saw life set, me nah get upset, no. How far me a come from and me no reach it. Me happy when me dem, me nah worry, me nah fret. I saw the thing go, I saw life set, me nah get upset, no. Me never understand when me little and I go. If me throw out a door, that means so me poor. And when hunger speak and none of the house to eat, me just go find a fruit tree. Water on like an Nancy story in a me grandmother arm. Laughed and over two riches na me panties calm alone on one. Early morning, wake up, think up and back up himself. After that, go draw the water from the well, wash up my body, put me clothes, we got school, go spell. Me mad, I no money alone, need to earn for knowledge as well. And my father woulda kick me down if no waste money and get expelled. How far me I come from and me no reach it. Me happy when me dem, me nah worry, me nah fret. I saw the thing go, I saw life set, me nah get upset, no.
Good night, everyone, and welcome again to another one of our lives. Welcome to our public meeting. I'm sure you're all bouncing to that beat, that beautiful introduction that we have. We're looking forward to another great night in which we'll have the president of the UIC, United Independence Congress, Joseph Patterson, with us, as well as some of the team members who you'll get to meet in a very short time. I want to thank you all for coming and being a part with us of this experience, and we look forward to it. Look forward to a great discussion tonight. As always, we look forward to learning, and we look forward to engaging with each other and engaging the issues that affects all of us here in Jamaica. So I'm going to welcome now the UIC chairman. Welcome, Chairman.
Good evening, Mr. Nelson. Thank you. So again, welcome to our second public meeting, and we are live streaming, so that's awesome. I'm going to introduce some of the leaders of the UIC. Some are not present today, and some persons are backstage. The board members are Mr. Joseph Patterson, who is our president and founder. We have Mrs. Patterson, who is also a co-founder, but not a board member. And the other board members are Mrs. Jasmine Powell, she's the VP of Surrey, Mr. Chase Neal, who is the VP of Middlesex County. We have a vacancy currently for another vice president. So we are in recruitment. If you feel that you can be a candidate, we would love to hear from you. We also have our General Secretary, Mrs. Claudia Barrett. Mrs. Kerry Ann Walker is our treasurer. Unfortunately, she's not here this evening because of work commitments. And we have Mrs. Chekanovsky, who is our board director and recording secretary. Not members of the board, but very key leaders within the UIC is Mr. Kevin Nelson, who is the host of Liberty TV and also the parish manager of St. Andrews. We also have Mr. Winston Wright, who is a candidate for Bethnal Town Division and MP and candidate of Westmoreland. Yes, I did mention Mr. Chase Neal, so that's awesome. I think that's all. Is there someone? Oh, Miss Patterson is here. That's lovely to see you, Mrs. Patterson. So this evening, we're going to be led by our president, and he will be taking the charge this evening. So without further ado, Mr. Patterson, please.
All right. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. It's really a pleasure to be here this evening and to be talking with you about some of the exciting things that we have lined up for the Jamaican people. I am particularly pleased to see Mr. Winston Wright on. He has been our standard bearer out in the western side of Jamaica for some time. Mr. Wright has been a vice president of the movement. He has been a chairman of the movement. He has also served a short stint as president, and he continues to be our strongest advocate out there in St. James, Annabelle, Westmoreland, and Trelawney. So thank you for being on, Mr. Wright. And I'm only bigging him up because he's not always with us in this particular setting, since he was kind of out for a while. I am very, very pleased to be surrounded by all of these great people. And you all know I love to big up my wife because she's the wind beneath my wing. The famous Mrs. Patterson. If you see my social media posts, you'll always see her there in Be Sweet Jamaica and Honey, making her life sweet and nice. So good to see you on, Mrs. P, and your lovely smile as always. Let me stop saying we actually have an agenda here tonight, and there are a few things we want to cover. The agenda includes looking at the following important matters. One, we want to talk about the poll that came out today. There's a big Don Anderson poll that came out today. That poll speaks to the viability of third parties in Jamaica. So I want to touch on that. I want to kind of walk you through it. I'm going to be on radio tomorrow morning talking about it some more. So I want to give you the insights I have before I go to the rest of the public with this. Also want to talk to you about our protest action that we're planning. It's a big protest action. Mrs. Ogart, our General Secretary, is going to tell you a bit about it, and I will chime in as needed. We also want to talk about our new candidates. Our goal is to have 63 candidates in all of the constituencies across the 14 parishes of Jamaica. And this is key. You have heard before that we were going to do a targeted small number of candidates, but we have since decided to expand that and to make sure we have a candidate on every single ballot across all 63 constituencies. So we're going to talk about that tonight. Then there's the big event coming up in December, the Christmas Banquet Fundraiser. It's an annual event. This is going to be our third year of it. The first 2 years were very successful, and this is going to be the most successful yet. So we're going to talk about that and the roles that you can play in that. We're going to touch on the Community Capital Club, which has been a long-standing project of the UIC. It's been on and off due to regulatory changes. The first time we did it, we did $23 million of small microloans across various communities, primarily in St. Elizabeth and some in other parishes. And once we've spoken about that, we're going to close off. But in between all of these, I want to hear from you. So any questions, comments, concerns that you have, I want you who are with us tonight to take the opportunity to speak to those. So I see online we have CMN, good night to you. I see Kirk, I see Craig McKenzie, I see Silver Cat, Douglas Harper, Clifton Lawrence, and others. The big thing is, I always like to call people's name because your names are important, but I must big up Mr. Craig McKenzie and let you all know that he's the first treasurer of the UIC. So when we started way back in 2013-14 to kick things off, he was the very first treasurer of the movement, and he's here with us tonight. Welcome, Mr. McKenzie. I also see Mr. Douglas Harper, who has been an instrumental figure, especially during the 2022-23 or 2021-23 period. You wouldn't know how talented he is. And if you ever hear some of our ads going out with a lovely voice behind it, that's his voice. The only person who tops him is Mrs. Patterson. You heard her voice the other night. Nobody can touch that. So, we're going to get back on track now, though. You will see that when my wife is on, I kind of lose focus a bit, so please forgive me. It's kind of hard, but I'll do my best and see if we can run this thing smooth. All right. So let's wheel and come again. I want to share with you on the screen now the newspaper article from the cleaner company, and let's talk about it and see what we can make of this, this particular article. Let me see if I can find it here on my screen. Here we go. Yeah. All right. So this is an interesting article. I hope you can see clearly on your screen here. It says Jamaicans, they know the third party's Don Anderson poll. And it came out today, 12:07 a.m., October 22nd. And it began by saying 3 in every 5 Jamaicans say they will not vote for a third political party, even as there is significant apathy towards the country's 2 main rivaling parties. That's the message they would like to stick into our heads, that the people of Jamaica are rejecting third parties. Before I go any further with that, I'd love to hear quickly from the other members of our team here, just briefly, anyone that wants to say a word about, maybe you've read the article and you just want to give your general take on it in about 60 seconds. Who'd like to jump on that? Anyone? Just open your mic and jump in.
All right. If I may, Mr. President, first.
Sure. Go ahead.
Right. I do hear the same sentiments being echoed in the spaces that I'm in, that people will not vote for a third party. And that is largely because of what the people are used to when they hear about a party. They expect more of the same. Because the UIC is not afforded the same amount of press time as the other two faces of the same party. I don't want to call them two different parties.
The two faces of the same party.
Yes, yes. We find that people are not aware of what the UIC is about. So they're just thinking of either another party along the same veins, or something like a gimmick's not going anywhere because the system is already controlled by the two, which I really want. So because people don't know, they're not allowed to know by those who are the gatekeepers of information dissemination. We can understand why they would react that way. They're not voting for any third party. But I think it is key for people to realize that the UIC is unlike any other party. We need to get that. And when I say we, I mean even the persons watching this live.
Yes.
We need to get it out to our fellow Jamaicans that the UIC is more than a party. The UIC is a tool to be used for our own self-empowerment. The other two colonial faces of the same system are not tools for the people to be used. They rather use the people as tools to achieve their own ends. But we need people to understand that you're not voting for a party with the UIC. That is not what we require of you. We require of you to use this solution that we are putting forward to make life better for yourself, your fellow Jamaicans, and their posterity.
Thank you very much. It's a good thing I said 30 seconds or 60 seconds, but thank you so much for that. I'm now going to come back to some of you, but I want to do something here very specific now. So anyone who wants to contribute, you will get a chance, and you just indicate to me, and I will bring you in. Now, what I want to do here quickly, I want to share with you on screen, if I can. 1 second here. Share with you a little breakdown that I have done in Word of what these people are trying to do to us. I hope you can see that very clearly. So I've taken the time to go through the article, and I've broken out some pieces. So the article began by I hope you can see clearly. Could somebody confirm that you can see this clearly, so I know it's okay for viewers? Any confirmations?
Yes.
Clearly.
Okay, good. Excellent. So what we're seeing here, so they began by saying 3 in every 5 Jamaicans say they will not vote for a third political party, even as there is significant apathy towards the country's 2 main rivaling parties. So what I want to say in this very first sentence is that even though we know enough of una like the 2 party, more uno don't want a third party. They're actually projecting to the people how they want the people to think. This is not how the people necessarily think of their own volition. They want them to think this way, and so they're programming the minds. It goes on to say the finding is among the latest in a Don Anderson public opinion poll conducted by his Market Research Services Limited company between September 27th and October 3rd. So they're giving it legitimacy. It's Don Anderson. We know it's a reputable pollster, so everything is good. The survey, it says, captured the views of 1,012 Jamaicans aged 18 years or older. It is a margin of error of plus or minus 3% at 95% confidence level. Anderson said, now this is very important, Anderson, which is the pollster, said, I'm going to add a word here, they didn't put it, non-aligned, publicly traded private sector interests. Okay, let me say that again. Said non-aligned, not but non-aligned, publicly traded private sector interests assisted in financing the research, the parameters of which were determined solely by MRSL. Do you realize what they're saying here? They're telling you that some PSOJ oligarchs who are not aligned to any of the 2 political colonial parties financed this event or helped to finance it, assisted in financing it. So who else assisted, I don't know. But the parameters were determined solely by Market Research Limited, meaning they didn't tell them how to go about the survey. They did it freely. They're actually confessing to a sin indirectly. I don't know if you understand what I mean. So they're really telling us that this is a tainted poll, but they're telling you it's not tainted. Then it goes on now. Everything you see in gray here is my comment. The above makes it clear that the PSOJ oligarchs funded this to further their objective of marginalizing the UIC to keep the people locked under their control. So they're trying to make sure they have documentary evidence why we should not look at the UIC without saying the UIC. The article goes on. Asked if they would give a third party their vote at this time, 62.6% said they would not vote for a third party, 21.3% said they are not sure they would, while 16.1% said they would. If this is true, the number that they give us here, I know they want us to focus on this. They want us to focus on the 62%. But if this is true, the UIC should then be included in the national debate, since that would be 16.5% say yes, they want to vote for a third party. The PSOJ's National Debates Commission says we need about 3 or 5%. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Wright or Mr. Chase, because we've been through this together before. Do you remember with the Debates Commission?
It's actually 8%.
8%. So using their numbers, we're twice as much then.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So 8%, it's at 16%. So this then is confirmation that the UIC should be included in the next debate that we have for a national election or even a local election, if we should have one in the next few years. So continuing on, and remember, anyone who wants to jump in, please jump in. If something hot you and you want to talk about it, just jump in so we can get that piece before we go on. Here's the next thing that I highlighted in yellow. This is very important. Remember, let me just read it. The responses follow February's local government elections in which the National Democratic Movement, NDM, Marcus Garvey People's Political Party, MGPP, the Jamaica Political Movement, JPM, and the Left Alliance for national democracy and socialism lands opted not to participate. This is a misleading. This is very misleading because these groups they're mentioning, none of them is a registered political party. So my note here says this is misleading as those groups are not registered and as such could not have contested any elections since 2018 until now. Referring to them is an attempt to sow division and confusion to turn off electors from considering the UIC. What is your thought on that? Anybody? Because this is a big deal, actually. This is a trick that they're pulling off here.
Well, that's one of the things that that came to my that I noticed.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, I want to thank Don Anderson for putting your a wonderful picture of you there. So we're getting some commercialization there.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, even the picture itself, the picture of yourself, the framing of the article, the idea of putting your picture there, and as you mentioned about these other splinters of quote unquote third parties, that's, you can definitely see an agenda there, and you can definitely see a framing there. But I also wanted to find out, I wonder how you quantify and qualify non-aligned to the PSOJ. So that would be very interesting. I'd love to hear from them about that. How do you quantify and qualify those who are non-aligned? Because in a political environment such as the one that we have in Jamaica, it would be interesting to hear.
Well, I guess the oligarchs who fund it just said to them, "We're non-aligned. We're going to give you a bag of money to go out and poll Jamaican people to find out if they would vote for a third party, because we really want to know. We would like to spend a few $1 million to find out if the Jamaican people want a third party, even though we're non-aligned. We're not aligned to any party. We just want to pay some money. We want to invest our shareholders' money into finding out if the Jamaican people are interested in a third party." How ridiculous is that? Which company would take their shareholders' money and pay a polling firm to find out if Jamaicans want to vote for third parties? But the key thing here that I want us to note is that they have gone out of their way to identify the NDM, the Marcus Garvey Party, the Jamaica political movement, which is barely existing. The JPM is really absolutely one man, really. The Marcus Garvey Party, of course, has been around for a long time, and none of these parties have been able to qualify under the laws of Jamaica to be registered. So none of them could ever run in an election. If an election was called tomorrow, you could not have the NDM on any ballot because they are not a registered party by law. You could not have the Marcus Garvey Party. You could not have any Left Alliance, whatever. So this is actually very interesting. And if we could only get people to understand what we're talking about here. Mr. Harper said, he noted the same thing as well. But let's continue. I want you to see the next piece now. And again, anyone feel free to jump in here. Yesterday, Joseph Patterson, president of the United Independence Congress, which fielded 4 candidates in the election, said a lack of media coverage is to be blamed for the poll results. Now, this is me commenting here. Saying we field 4 candidates is just an attempt to further diminish and marginalize the party. So they're trying to find, them only field 4 candidates, and the others didn't field any, and so on. So they're trying to create a narrative here, that we're not ready for prime time and to reinforce negative perceptions. He said little to no coverage in the media does not give Jamaicans much to go on. Then they continue. They're quoting me now. We really haven't given the Jamaican people enough context in which to respond. They weren't given a name, nor were they seeing the UIC in terms of the normal news cycle, said Patterson.
Can you jump in? Oh, sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
I wanted to backtrack to the point where they said that the UIC fielded 4 candidates. That is actually lie. The UIC fielded 5 candidates, but the ECJ deliberately identified myself as an independent candidate, despite us giving the information, sending the information via email to the ECJ and presenting to the returning officer that I am a member of the UIC running as a candidate of such. And they did verify that, yes, they know the UIC, we have our own symbol with them and so forth. But on election day, I was put down as an independent candidate so that the news would have reported that we fielded 4 instead of 5 candidates.
Right.
And then there were other candidates who were prevented from being nominated. They gave them the runaround, such as Damian Reynolds in Islington Division.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So I mean, mind you, this is the Gleaner reporting anyway. So it's the Gleaner that the ECJ now would be the one who would have to correct that misinformation. But the Gleaner is going to go by what the ECJ publishes, and the ECJ published that it's only 4 UIC candidates, and they're using that data now to strengthen their argument that people shouldn't bother with the UIC. They also misquoted me here by saying we really haven't given the Jamaican people enough context. I was speaking about them, the media, and I said the media didn't do this, and they said we. So again, they're working very hard overtime to achieve their objective here. But let's continue. He said it is only during election season that third and other parties are given some form of attention or coverage. He said the parties considered minor in the context of Jamaica's 2-party system are never invited to give commentary or feedback on issues, which is true. At election time, we start off the discussion, third parties don't do well. We're talking about this at election time, not during the course of the year, and I didn't say year, I said the years. So these are all the kinds of things which contribute to a poll result like this, Patterson told the Gleaner. Now, this is a fact that they present as merely my opinion, but it's not my opinion. This is a fact. During the course of the year, they avoid doing anything with the UIC, and then at election time, they will now come in and do the token thing in order to kind of achieve this objective. It then goes on to say the Gleaner was unable to reach Michael Williams, co-founder and general secretary of the NDM, for comment on the issue. Now, my God, why are you saying that again? What is the significance of the NDM? The NDM is not a registered party. Michael Williams does not represent a registered political party. So maybe if they got him to comment, they would not have called me, because they wouldn't need to hear from the registered political party at all. So meanwhile, Jamaicans have indicated that debates, this is critical now, the rest of the polling, they're drawing some of the information out of it. Jamaicans have indicated that debates between leaders and candidates, parties, manifestos, plans, party conferences, and receiving gifts to vote all have no impact on their willingness to vote. This is where they nullify the validity of the poll altogether. Your comments, please. I hope you understand what this is saying here.
Through you, Mr. President.
Go ahead, Mr. Wright.
And I crave you. Good evening, everyone. Thanks to everyone for joining us. I hope the viewership continues to climb. And while I'm on, let me just ask everyone watching on the various social media platforms to like, share, and if you haven't subscribed as yet, please go ahead and do so. Mr. President, I crave your indulgence to go back in time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the first thing is that I noted that the article was written by a reporter, and I use that term deliberately, Kimon Witter. And one of the jobs you had given me in the early days of the UIC was to craft press releases. And this particular person, I have personally submitted to her work email press releases from the UIC, called the station and spoken to her. And yet, there was no publication, no reference to our document. So
stick a pin, Mr. Wright. Stick a pin. Her name is Kimon Francis, and she told me that she has never received a press release from us.
I can go back. Remember that broadcast I did when I showed her email and at least 2 others that blocked me from emailing. As a matter of fact, the UIC email I use is blocked on the RGR Gleaner communication server.
I told her just that. I told her just that because I remember that she's one of the many reporters we emailed to. And she said to me that The reason why is because the UIC doesn't send out any press releases. So we know they're lying. But anyways, continue.
Rubbish. So I want Jamaicans at home and abroad listening to understand the dishonesty in a I won't even call it a journalistic system, in a news cycle that is controlled by vested interest in the political establishment. Their advertising revenue, because right now, if you are to listen to any of the major broadcast systems, you'll hear government ads being run at regular intervals, and that has been happening since the pandemic. That is the government siphoning revenue to their favorite radio station.
Absolutely.
And each one is aligned to a particular party.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we have actively reached out and still do to these news organizations to share our point of view, and they do not publish it. So that's number one. So for me, the author of the story makes it invalid first. Then there is the organization that conducted the poll. I remember they conducted a poll towards the end of the pandemic, read the political landscape in Jamaica, and made no reference to the EIC. And when he was asked about it in a broadcast, as a matter of fact, they were so ashamed of it, they invited you on a program to cover up their debate.
That was nationwide, inviting us to nationwide. And we went there and spoke to it, and they still tried their best to see if they could nullify. Mr. Harper was there actually that evening. Yes, go ahead.
Correct. So when they spoke to Mr. Anderson about it, he said that he didn't know of the UIC's existence. But I have letters that I, as chairman, exchanged with that organization, spoken to people in the organization in an attempt to organize a poll to satisfy the debates commission requirement for participation in those upcoming debates at that time. And guess what? He was aware of it. So again, the poll now, the pollster is one that I find untrustworthy. So
and let's remember, by the way, that Mr. Don Anderson gave us a quote for a poll.
Correct.
but then said he knew nothing about the UIC.
So let's understand that now that is the second reason why this poll is invalid and crooked. Now, I remember in high school, I had a teacher, and he said that in life, there are lies, there are damn lies, and there are statistics. So I tried to look at the statistics of this poll. The sample size is 1,112 persons, right?
Yes.
That is less than 1%.
Don't go there yet. Don't go there yet. I want us to. I'm trying to do this a bit, orderly.
Okay.
So I'm trying to go through a step that's going to lead to each of the points that we're going to make here.
All right.
So bear with me for a second.
So let me hold that one back then.
Yes, hold it for a second. I want us to.
But let us understand that in the UIC records and archives, there are emails with this reporter and the news organization, and in my email, there are emails that show that we were blocked on their server. Okay. Yes. And the pollster was dishonest about the UIC's dealings in the past. So this totally invalidates whatever they have put. But the fact of the matter is that they can manipulate and have consistently manipulated these polls to say whatever they want.
Exactly. And now look at what they are telling us here in the article. What I have highlighted in yellow here. It says, meanwhile, Jamaicans have indicated that debates between leaders and candidates, listen carefully, debates between leaders and candidates do not matter. Party manifestos and plans do not matter. Party conferences do not matter. Vote buying, with the talk of receiving gifts, do not matter. Does anyone on this platform who is listening to us tonight agree, from your intuition, from your engagement with Jamaican politics generally? I want to know if there's anyone on the platform right now that believe this is true, that debates between party leaders don't matter to Jamaicans in their voting, that manifestos and plans, which we know sometimes they won't read it, but they will listen to some of the plans and say this one I like or that one. It doesn't matter. Party conferences for which they spend millions of dollars bussing in people and doing all kinds of exciting things doesn't matter. And that vote buying, this is what they're trying to tell us, Don Anderson is trying to tell us that he has conducted a poll which leads us to believe that vote buying is of no effect in Jamaica. Does anybody in their right mind agree with Don Anderson's poll on this? Anybody here? Let me know if one of you would be among the 1,012 persons who he claimed he has polled. CMN says not true at all. Douglas Harper says lies. No, this is absolutely rubbish, But let's continue here. It now tells us the numbers. Some 63.4% of respondents says debates have no impact. 14.8% said little impact. So basically, what's that now? 80% says debates doesn't matter. Yeah, little impact to no impact. 10.1% said some impact. In terms of manifesto, 58.7% said it have no impact. 14.1% said some impact, while 13.6% confirmed they have great impact. A similar 13.6% said they have little impact. On whether party conferences have any impact on Jamaicans' willingness to vote, 76 said no impact. 9.4 indicate they have little impact. 7.4 said some impact. 6.9 said they have great impact. In the same breath, 82.8% of respondents said receiving gifts to vote has no impact on their willingness to go to the polls. Obviously, to be honest, most persons who will sell their votes will not in a formal interview tell you that they're willing to sell their vote. So that's, quite suspect, right? 5.7% noted that the act has little impact. Gifts have great impact on only 6.1% of participants. Somewhat of an impact, 5.4%. Roughly about, 12% of Jamaicans say it would have some impact. A significant majority of those quizzed also said the subjects had no impact on which party they would vote for. What does that mean? Can somebody tell me what that means? The subjects. Anybody who understands that sentence, let me know what it means. 71% of respondents says debates have little to no impact in terms of the party they vote for, while 14.5% say they have some impact or great impact, respectively. And 63.4% of respondents manifested of little to no bearing on the party they vote for. By contrast, 21% said they have somewhat of an impact, and 50.6% said they have great impact. Party conferences have little to no impact, 79.5%, and so on. Gifts have little to no bearing on the party, 83.9%. So 84% roughly of respondents says, don't give me nothing to vote. I'll just vote without anything at all, no inducement whatsoever. So in summary, whilst none of these factors would weigh heavily on decisions, the voter has to make manifestos represent the factor highest on their list, though this accounts for less than 30% of all voters, according to said Don Anderson poll. If you do a poll, when you're doing polling, one of the most important things is how you come by your sample size. How do you sample? How do you pick? This poll, go ahead, Madam Chair.
I'm just finding it very hilarious because that's what I was thinking about. Where did they find their sample? It is really funny. I think basically what they're doing is insulting the Jamaican people by saying we are monkey see, monkey do. If you come to see your parents vote PNP, that's what you're going to do. Mm-hmm. That's your community. That's what you'll do. You don't care about the politics. You're not bothered to listen about anything that anyone has to say. You're just going to vote PNP. Or if you're Labour, you're just going to vote Labour. Doesn't matter if you bribe me. So why are they going out bribing people if bribery doesn't matter? Or why are they spending all this money on debating and all the different things that they do if none of it matters? It's just trying to say we are so stupid that we're just going to do what we've always done. There is no point in anybody trying anything different. It's not going to work. You've already failed. For those who don't vote PNP or Labour because you've just not been branded, You're not a slave to those party, but there is no point in you bothering to vote because nobody else is going to vote. This is basically what it is. You know,
Absolutely.
PNP will always be PNP. There is no thought behind it. It's just basically just saying the people of Jamaica are just animals who follow the course and the track of the go to the watering hole, graze in the same grass, whatever it is that you've done before. That's what you're going to do the next day. You're never going to think for yourself. You're never going to listen to it. You know, it's so insulting.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to agree with a lot of things that the chairman says, but also this is the type of things that they keep spewing on the Jamaican people and taking advantage of the Jamaican people in terms of their understanding of certain stuff. I have a lot of experience in writing surveys and doing polls myself, so a lot of times a lot of these people won't understand. A lot of the normal Jamaicans won't understand. You know, sometimes they will say margin of error 3, but a lot of times they don't understand that the margin of error can be even larger than that. So the logistics of surveying, obviously, it's not done. So that's why I say it's a framing. And I don't know how many people watching on live right now, but I just want to say this. From my perspective, a lot of things that I'm seeing, a lot of things that they're saying, I'm seeing a build-up, I'm seeing a framing. As I mentioned, your picture is there, Mr. Patterson. So I think what's happening is they are becoming very, very afraid of what the UIC is building. And for our viewers watching, I want you to meditate upon those words. They are becoming very afraid of what the UIC is building.
If of course they're afraid, because if they're not afraid, you wouldn't try to destroy something that was of no consequence. The fact that they go through this much effort is actually a good sign that the UIC is actually doing something, and there is great meaning and significance within, and they see there is something to be threatened off for them to actually go. And I love the fact that they're using the survey. I just find it also very hilarious because we love the survey says. I hear that a lot. Survey. And like, who knows anything about surveys? Who's done the survey? Who's checking the survey? What's the you know, like, how authentic is it? How robust is it? And furthermore, if you're ever researching something, you never take the opinion or any survey from anyone who, if it's their product. You have to know that it's someone independent, and that independent party has to be governed.
Well, they're trying to tell us, Madam Chair, that they're independent. It's a non-aligned, publicly traded set of companies. So I'm so we should be so honored. We should be so honored that the private sector organization, there are these altruistic companies.
Yeah, that's so wonderful.
And they put up a few $1 million and give it to Don Anderson and say, Don Anderson, we would like to know if the Jamaican people would vote for a third party or not. We're just curious. We're going to spend a few $1 million to find that out, Don Anderson. And we're not aligned, by the way. We're not associated with any political party. We're just doing this out of the goodness of our heart because we want to know. For whatever purpose. I don't know what the purpose is. So this is amazing. As a fool, this is amazing. That we're going to fall for this. And yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, the usual procedure would be that the ones who, like, for example, the UIC itself then would need to be the persons who would go out and survey to see where we are. It would have to be the UIC that spends its money, because that's what happens with politics or with any other company. You do market research. You want to know where you are, what it will take, you know, how the people are perceiving you. So why would another party, none aligned with UIC, none aligned with the oligarchs, none aligned with anybody, they're just so wonderful to go and spend their money to just to help the UIC to know where we are, and might as well not bother.
And they made sure to tell us at the very top that there are these non-aligned, wonderful people. But look at this. Look at how people are responding. These are the comments on the thing, right? So one person wrote, "What a shame." Another person wrote, "The two dominant political parties are not working in their best interest. Still, they won't give a third party a chance. Education matters. Poor Jamaica." That's by the way. This is how they want us to respond. They want us to say, like this fella Randy, for example, probably leaves now and shake his head and say Jamaica hopeless, it done. And he will resign the people, the nation, to the fate of the two colonial parties, because according to this poll, there's no hope. The Jamaican people are done. They will not change. So we should not donate to the UIC. We should not join the UIC. We should not volunteer to the UIC because it's a waste of time. Here's what Macho says. We usually shy away, which may very well be beneficial to us. Apparently, rather than casting a ballot for a new third party, folks would rather not vote, period. Again, while this sounds nice to us, like here's a person.
Mr. Patterson, we can't hear you. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me.
I think yeah, I can hear you. I think his internet might have gone out.
Okay. I actually, what I believe Macho Loy is saying, I think he's being sarcastic. So I don't think he's actually agreeing with those with the poll. I think what he's doing is being sarcastic. My eyes are very blurry. Let me see if I can make this bigger. I think it's sarcasm. So he says we usually shy away from things which may very well be beneficial to us. It's the writing is gone. I'm not sure.
Madam Chair, I think what Macho Loy was saying was not really sarcasm, but pointing out that rather than voting for a third party, which might have been beneficial for us, many persons would rather not vote at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But this is where the way it's written to me is written in a sarcastic tone, because if I could read it and I could be able to go through it, because it might seem as though he is discouraging persons from voting. He's actually encouraging the vote.
But that's kind of like the point Mr. Patterson was making.
Yeah.
It's this sort of despondency and discouragement that they want to bring over the Jamaican people. So once again, you see the manipulation and the lack of care.
Yes.
For the good interest of our country. It's obvious that these politicians, they don't have it. And as I said, they're definitely afraid of what the UIC is building. As I said some time ago, if you think about it, and a lot of times, remember, they are the ones who are studying this. The average Jamaican is not studying it. So they're looking at the trend, they're looking at the pattern. We've seen splinters come here and there. We've seen them come, them disappear. I remember when Cliff Hughes was interviewing Mr. Patterson, he was saying that, well, the latest was the NDM. And as always, this is what they keep doing, just as Mr. Patterson was saying. They keep using these phrases and these words, these coin words, to sort of diminish, as Mr. Patterson says, the value of what the UIC is and what the UIC is bringing. Putting it into a little box, a regular little third party, and here comes another third party. But the point you made, Chairman, is very important. Somebody fund this. And they're not going to fund it unless they see that it has benefits to them.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So these are the ways in which I would like the Jamaican people to think, to look at the hidden agendas and so on, and continue to support the UIC. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
There was a point.
Oh, I hit it out.
But the power is with the people. And what is happening in Jamaica is that most people, that's what I noticed, most people are exhausted. The everyday person that we actually need to go out to vote, they don't have the time to read these things. They don't have the time to sit and listen to the lectures. Basically, what they will listen to are the sound bites. And if they're hearing no point in a third party, they're really hearing, don't bother. Don't even bother. If you were going to, then don't bother, because we've already failed. But the thing is, rather we bother and know that we did something individually. If we fail or not, individually, at least we try. Sorry, Mr. Patterson, you're back.
Yeah, keep going. You're doing fine.
Yeah. But the point of the matter is not for us to be so easily programmed, because this is just negative propaganda. that is hoping that we are just so lazy and can't be bothered that we're just going to give up. But the thing is, it's each of our vote is so important, and we mustn't be dissuaded from doing our best, because at least we will know that we've done something. Do go ahead, Mr. Patterson.
Oh no, go please finish your
Through-
thoughts.
Yes, I'm finished. Patterson, like, it was my interpretation that Macho Loy, apparently, I believe that this is sarcasm. I'm not sure if this is what you were also saying. Apparently, rather than casting a ballot for a new third party, folks would rather not vote, period, right? Or am I reading something wrong?
Yeah, that's correct. He's drawing the conclusion that based on the polls, people would rather not vote for a third party. Their choice is to vote for one of the two or don't vote at all. That's his conclusion from the thing. And any conclusion like that is actually a defeatist one. And that's what they hope to achieve.
Yes.
Mr. Wright, you wanted to say something. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let's start with the premise again that there are lies, double lies, and there are statistics. And we're looking at some statistics. You mentioned the sample size. Where did they get it from? But help me with this, Mr. President, since you are very skilled with figures. The 1,012 persons that make up their sample, what percentage of the 2.8 plus billion people in Jamaica is that?
A very small percentage. But remember, it's in statistics though, it's not the percentage of the population per se. It's which is a factor, and Don Anderson is a skilled pollster.
Right, is the social demographic that you choose?
Yeah, it's where you pull the sample from. So, for example,
correct.
Suppose you pull the 1,012 from Tivoli, for example.
Exactly, and that is the point I'm making.
Yeah,
that at such a minuscule percentage of the broader population, that sample size is very restrictive.
Mm-hmm.
So you're guaranteeing a particular outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Literally.
Yeah, I mean,
because you have used a very small sample, which you would have gotten, and even if you said you did it from the entire Jamaica, it's still such a restrictive sample that you're literally guaranteeing your outcome.
Yes, and of course it depends. I think their sampling was primarily persons who are aligned with the two political parties, mostly. That's number one, and persons who are most likely to say that they're not taking money for their votes. You can see a very high percentage is saying that, taking money from my vote doesn't. But if you look at the voting turnout, we only have roughly between 29 and 37% over the last two local and general elections. So
that was gonna be my next point.
Yeah,
that was gonna be my next point. But here I want to broaden the outlook. The last general election, the turnout was south of 37%.
37%. Yeah.
If we look at the Northeast St. Ann by-election as a sample now, then with just over 11% turnout, then we can predict what the next general election is going to look like. So it is going to be even lower. What
I wouldn't draw that conclusion, only because there are extraneous factors. So, for example, usually in a by-election, the turnout is usually smaller in a by-election. Also, in a by-election where one of the two major parties did not contest, that also affects the turnout as well. But we're running out of time, so I can't afford for us to get too much more granular. But see if we can wrap up your point quickly.
Right. So the point I'm making is this. They are carrying out a skilled piece of social engineering and conditioning job on the populace of Jamaica by painting a picture, starting a narrative of dysfunction, and then associating the UIC with those who are not even eligible to participate in the process. To say, see, there's a whole bunch of them that isn't making it work, so let's forget it. That's the image they are trying to create, and that is a huge fallacy. That is a big lie that they're telling the people. And it's important that those who are listening here and those who see that article, those who hear people refer the article, say to them that the UIC explained the lie that is involved in this.
Yes, absolutely. Well said. The last person or person who responded to Matraloy said, "You're correct, Matraloy. Most voters cannot visualize the added pressure a third party can bring to bear on our two existing parties. People are not focusing on performance. The focus is on party." While that sounds quite nice and rings of truth, here's the real truth. The Jamaican people are focused on performance, even if they don't articulate it in the way that we would like them to. What they have done is to abandon the political process because they're not getting the performance. That's why in the last election, 71% didn't vote, and in the one before that, 63% didn't vote, because they're saying we're not seeing the performance and therefore we're backing out. What they're not seeing, however, is a viable third option because of the reasons we have all explained before as to why the UIC isn't visible. And they also don't understand politics. Most Jamaicans don't understand that for them to have a political party, there has to be a funder. And if the funder isn't them, then it's somebody who's going to fund those parties to work for somebody other than them. So they don't, that connection, the UIC been making that connection, but slowly and difficult, very hard because we're not on the public media explaining this for the public to hear it in a forum that they accept as normal and then say, oh yeah, true, for them to move forward. It's a slow process to move them to say, oh, okay, so as long as we are not funding the party and we allow the PSOJ to fund the parties, then the PSOJ own the parties. So the parties don't work for we, they work for the PSOJ. We have to make that connection for them, and that's what we're doing, but with great difficulty because those who understand this message don't necessarily fund it to go further. They don't necessarily jump on board and say, okay, let me volunteer time and effort and money to make that happen. All right. Final thought. Go ahead,
really
Madam.
Because I think I'm reading this so very differently. Because what I'm reading from what Len Rob 2027, whatever, says, is to me like he's saying that the UIC has the ability to damage the other two party to make a significant difference, right? That's what right. And also that persons who are voting for Labour and PNP currently, that they're not focusing on how well those parties are performing. They're just already aligned with them and continue to be aligned, right? Is that what?
No, well, I mean, that's one way. What I see here is just that he says that that the voters, and he says voters cannot visualize the added pressure that a third party can bring to the political arena to put pressure on the other parties to perform. And then he goes on to say, people are not focusing on performance. Their focus is on party instead. So people have aligned themselves to the two parties and they don't care about performance, which is what the poll results say. He's reading the poll results as though they were true, as though they were efficacious. They say, yeah, based on the polls, this poll, I have confidence in it, and it's telling me that the Jamaican people are party-driven, they're not performance-driven, and they don't realize how powerful a third party could be if they would allow that third party to bring that pressure to bear on the system. I am saying, however, that analysis isn't fully true in the sense that Jamaicans do focus on performance. The action they take is to leave the political arena. So if this sample size was accurate, if this sampling, not the size, but the sampling, meaning picking enough random representation of right across Jamaica, what you would see coming out of the sample is that 60 to 70% of the Jamaican people are saying, we don't have any confidence in those two other political parties. We don't have any confidence in the system that exists either. And so we have opted out. Then the next step for them would be, okay, do I want to vote for a third party or not? And based on how the question is asked of them, they may choose to say, I'm not really sure about third parties because the way you guys have framed them, they're not worthy of my time and effort. So all of that could be at play in this, but we don't know because we can't trust the pollsters and we can't trust even the reporters of the news because they're not reporting in an unbiased way and so on. Yeah. Anybody else quickly before we move? All right, good. Thank you for all your engagement. Did we lose some people? I think we lost some people. Yeah, I'm not seeing Mrs. Patterson, and I think we've lost. Okay, anyways. All right, so we have gone over our time. It's now 9:32, so we're going to have to close off. But next Tuesday, we're going to have more time to focus on the other issues. We need your involvement in planning our protest campaign. It's a very big protest campaign that we have coming up. So we're going to talk more about that next Tuesday. And we also need to make sure we're all engaged in the Christmas banquet coming up on December 14th. So I want you to pick a number that you're going to make your goal. What is your goal, to achieve for the Christmas banquet? We need to sell 300 tickets. I know all of you are already selling tickets on here. And then some of you need to set your goals. We're going to do that. Quick final words from any member of the team that wants to give a final word. Sorry we couldn't get to the other topics, but we're going to do it next Tuesday. Anyone? Miss Barrett, maybe? I love your shirt. Can't hear you. You're muted. We didn't hear Director Janet. Say something for us so we hear your voice. We didn't hear Sister Jasmine Powell. We didn't hear Miss Barrett. You have the last one, 30 seconds each. What do you want to say to us before we go tonight? Quickly.
What I have to say about that poll is
or anything.
I know the first thing I noticed when I read it, he said that it was not funded. It was not funded by let us say other persons. I don't remember the exact words. Mm-hmm. So he wanted to say that it was his funding and painting and him go out and do what he did. And that raised the red flag for me because I'm wondering why you needed to say that. You go do your poll, do your poll. Why you need to make me know, say, what was so important in letting me know that it was funded by you? So among that and the other lies, just stand up strong in my face.
Thank you. Director VP Powell, go ahead. Unmute VP Powell if you wanted to comment.
Phone stuck.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, my phone, the mic was stuck. You're hearing me?
Loud and clear, yes.
Okay, the Dan Anderson poll to me is senseless and pointless. And I believe that poll was carefully designed and sending out subliminal message to voters, and that is my view on it.
Yeah, thank you. Director Janet.
Good night, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I just want to encourage the Jamaican people to really take a look at the UIC platform. Visit the website, check the YouTube videos so you can learn more about the UIC and see what the UIC has to offer. I was looking at the chat and some people think we're wasting our time talking about this poll, but no, we're not. We want the people to understand the indirect message, subliminal messages that are being sent, negative messages to undermine the UIC. We want you to understand that. So open your minds and think, for the last 80 years, what have these two corrupt parties done for Jamaica? It's time for us to pull up our bootstraps and give the UIC a chance. Spread the word and let everyone know the UIC's help is here to help us from the bottom up. This is why we're here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Director. Kirk, thank you for your thoughts. Kirk says, I think fear is creeping into the PSOJ camp. Yes, it's the first time the PSOJ has been brought into the light for what it is doing. No other political party in the history of Jamaica has ever identified the real problem. We've identified the system, and we've identified the funder that is preserving that system and allowing it to work the way it does. So thank you for that. Juliet says, one Jamaica, one love UIC, the best part of a Jamaica, vote, 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 UIC, better quality, so on and so forth. Silver Cat, thank you for your comments. I agree with you that citizens do look for performance, even if they're delusional at times about that in terms of how they rate the existing parties. Flippin' Pages, thank you for your thoughts. Giving us the math there, 1%. And how wide and diverse was the sample size? Very good, Rockwell. That's exactly the point we're making here. Let me see. Donald Duffus, good to see you on. One Jamaica stronger together, Mr. Duffus. Appreciate that. Ken Solomon, good to see you on as well. Thank you for joining us. All right, everybody. Juliet, CMN, Silvercat, all of you, thank you so much for being here tonight. Mr. Nelson, thanks for being our host again tonight. And Madam Chair, thank you so much for cheering. It was a pleasure seeing you all. We meet again next week, same time, 8:30. And that next week, we're going to dig into now the plan as to how we're going to get the numbers we need to win some seats in the next election. And by the way, we have 6 wonderful candidates here tonight. I don't know if you're all on, but Mr. Neil was on. Mr. Neil is our candidate for St. Mary, Western St. Mary. Mr. Wright is our candidate for Westmoreland Eastern. Claudia Barrett is our candidate for St. Catherine Southern. Miss Powell is our candidate for St. Andrew Southern. And we have Mr. Nelson, who is going to be in St. Elizabeth Southeastern, and myself, St. Elizabeth Northeastern. So we're building the numbers. We're at 6, and we have 57 more to go with your help. Thank you very much. Have a good night. Until next week, Tuesday at 8:30 again. Take care.